So overall, I think this is very quickly becoming one of my favorite sketchbooks. Hi friends, welcome back. I'm Trisha, and in today's video, we're going to tour some of the pages of this A6 Etcher sketchbook. I am 1/3 through filling the pages of this sketchbook, and I'm keen to share some of the latest line and wash artworks that I've been trying out. In this video, you'll also see a time lapse of how I created this piece in line and wash using some mixed media. It's definitely going to be a fun session, so let's get into it. So first, a little bit about this sketchbook. In my last month's video titled What's in My Travel Art Kit, I had introduced this little A6 Etcher sketchbook. This is hot pressed, 100% cotton, 220 GSM, and it's great for mixed media as per the information on the leaflet that comes along with the sketchbook. And the primary reason for getting this for my short trip was to see if I could use my Carandash Lush set while I was away. I did get to use it just once. This was the fear of the first page, and I think I kind of ruined the sketchbook right at the start. But anyhow, it does apply very easily onto this paper, the Neocolor 2 wax crayons, which are aquarelle. But I did notice that it tends to transfer onto the other side, even if you do tend to leave it to dry for some time. I left the first folio because the page of the first folio is really attached to the hard cover in the front, and it's difficult to paint on this. I did this on the flight while coming back using my Carandash Luminance color pencils. I think the turning point for the sketchbook has been towards the end of June last month, and this is when I started to revisit line and wash as a technique. This is from a YouTube tutorial by the extremely talented and gifted teacher Martin Lachmair, who is an absolute expert at line and wash technique. This video was about a 15-minute excerpt from his longer video, which is on Patreon. I have followed his page over the last couple of years on his Instagram social, and I've just given him a follow also on Patreon recently. I love the way he teaches and breaks down each step so simplistically, and it's easy to follow along. Here I've basically used the regular and very commonly available micron tip pens, and for some of the shadows I didn't have a brush pen in black, so I used the sepia toned brush pen. And for some of the darker black areas, I basically used a 0.5 Pilot pen, which is waterproof again. All of these are waterproof inks. I really enjoyed doing this spread, and it kind of got me back into line and wash. I love the way how the colors and the ink contrasts beautifully against this really soft, natural white paper of this sketchbook. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Martin Lachmair's work, and in any case, I'm going to link his channel and his Patreon page down in the description below. Do give him a follow and see if line and wash is something that appeals to you. He's a great teacher. So I painted a couple of other line and wash compositions. This is thanks to a family friend who had kindly shared a photograph, and I sought their permission to try and paint the photograph using the line and wash technique. So this tree over here is just a mirror image I tried of this particular tree, and while the foliage in the original photograph is quite different, I wanted to apply what I had learned in this tutorial onto this composition. For watercolors, I've used my 18 well ceramic tabletop palette from Meaden, where I keep my colors filled in the wells, and I use this for painting when I'm at home and need a large mixing area in my palette like this one. I think some of this luminous pink is the opera pink from Daniel Smith Jean Haynes set that I recently got. I'm going to skip the pages in the middle and I'll come back to it in a minute. So this is the same subject from a different angle. There was a lot of foliage in the foreground in the original photograph, which I didn't want to include, but I included the shadows. And probably I went a little too far. I would have liked the beautiful sunlit lawn to show a little bit more. I felt I had darkened the shadow area too much. And I came back with a process yellow Derwent soft pastel pencil. And I created these lines. So it's just so easy to layer on top of this paper. Of course, I did this when the paper was slightly damp still, and I find that the soft pastel pencils kind of settle into the paper when it's slightly damp. And these are references again from our same family friend and the beautiful garden that they have. I love this little birdhouse that they've created, and there's a little, probably a yellow oriole there, and some beautiful flowers. I think what I like about line and wash is that you can decide how much of detailing you want to do with the fine liner pen or your fountain pen. And then the watercolors on it just seem so dreamy in a way. This was relatively a very quick sketch, I think done in about 20-25 minutes, of a couple of my friends who had gone on a short trek here close to home. And this was a little puppy that they had rescued from a stream of water during the heavy monsoons. And the photograph that they'd shared was pretty much without their faces. And I had to think of a way to complete this composition. But then I went and added a couple of umbrellas which were in sync with the theme. And I really enjoyed how this came together. These little splatters over here were done with the Museum Aquarelle color pencils. These are from Caran d'Ache. And I just simply dipped them in water, and using a brush, I just did some splatters. Maybe I'll just include a B-roll on how I did this little splatter technique. So this next one is again from a YouTube tutorial by Martin Lachmair, where he was teaching how to line and wash windows. At the time of making this, I thought I didn't have a brush pen in black, and I hence used the sepia brush tone for some of the darker shadows in this exercise, apart from using the fine tip 0.1 micron Unipen pen. But then when I dug around a little bit looking for a black brush pen, I realized I had this really old Miniso Aquarelle brush. It's a number 31101, and it's a dual tip pen. One has the fine liner and the other side has a brush pen. And this is really old. I don't even remember when I'd got this. But let me just show you how beautiful this is, because once you activate it with water, it really has this lovely purpley kind of a smoky tone to it. The ink is almost dry in this, but just to give you a sense of the color once you activate it with water. You see that rich purpley tone? So I was quite happy to have rediscovered this pen. And like I said, the ink is almost over, so you really have to get into it to make those darker shadows. But it's still handy, and I'll use it till it completely runs out. This is the fine tip end, which is also aquarelle. So I use this brush pen largely for some of the effect on this line and wash, and the standard watercolor palette that I showed you, the ceramic medium palette, for the rest of the colors. Next is this spread, which is from a photograph from my photo gallery. This is from the Fort Aguada jail in Goa, and it was a beautiful morning that I'd visited earlier in the year, and I thought of recreating that, trying to put to practice some of my line and wash technique. And I found this little lamp shade quite interesting, and I just decided to magnify that into a little composition on its own, probably lit up at night. And I don't know if you can see these little intended fireflies, but that's been basically done with the beryl green luminance color pencil. So overall, I feel this sketchbook can take so much of water and different medium. For example, this piece, I was really worried because I kind of struggled with it, and a lot of layers of water went into it. But if you just see the buckling, there's hardly any, and there is no transfer to the other side. So overall, I think this is very quickly becoming one of my favorite sketchbooks. And finally, we come to this piece that I did the first day of this month, and I quite enjoyed this process. It took me slightly more than an hour, starting from finding the photograph that I wanted to paint, to a pencil sketch, to the line and wash, and finer details with some mixed media. So I won't be able to share the entire process in real time because the video will get really long. But I promise you it's going to be fun to just watch this come alive in time lapse from a sketch to this end piece. So a little bit about this photograph and the reference. It's from 2019 when I was visiting Italy for a holiday. And I'd taken this photograph of Mount Vesuvius through the ruins of Pompeii. I hope you enjoy. I won't be speaking through the time-lapse video, so just sit back and enjoy this next section. Friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you love about line and wash technique. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, happy painting!